Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 102 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a little bit of house cleaning because, you guys seem to really do like the house cleaning because we always do it. And like I said, nothing wrong with doing a little bit of house cleaning, But obviously, I want to thank you guys for continuing to support the show and coming back and listening. It really means a lot to me. You guys, keep coming back, keep downloading the episodes, keep sharing the episodes, and, continue to give me your feedback on them because, it's always great to get feedback on, the content that I push out and, have these discussions with y'all. It really means a lot to me. You guys keep coming back and listening. It really does, to be honest. Aside from that, if you follow me on my social media pages, which if you don't, obviously my Snapchat is SoMungi, Instagram SoMungi, Twitter is @JoshStewart2. But specifically for my Snapchat and Instagram followers, I posted that I went to the lake recently and I, got to try out my new Sigma lens that I bought for my camera. And I got to mess around with the manual settings and I got to have a lot of fun. I took a lot of photos and a lot of videos and I posted them so that you guys can, let me know what you think. And it was a lot of helpful practice for me that eventually I want to do an episode talking about that and giving some of my thoughts and then getting somebody else to give their thoughts who's been doing it for a lot longer than I have. But aside from that, we do have a topic because obviously this is the second episode of the week. Wednesday's episode, thank you again for downloading and listening to it. But for this week, or specifically today's episode, we're going to be talking about iPhone 12 leaks. And there is more to this. And I know what you guys are thinking. Josh, how many videos have we already done on the iPhone 12 now? And quite a few. But like I said, I see this as really more of the last nudge really for the iPhone 12 that yes, there's not really much else we can really break down with these leaks, and these leaks have been around for a while, so I've had time to look at them, think about them, and I'm not just going to regurgitate verbatim everything that was shown, because if you really want to, you can just go watch Jon Prosser's original video, which I'll leave in the description down below, whether it be on Spotify, YouTube, wherever. You're going to get a link to Jon's video where Jon goes over the links or the leaks originally. And obviously this comes from Jon Prosser from Front Page Tech, whose track record right now is currently legit because Jon has been predicting some of the most craziest things and they've all been right. So yeah, you can trust Jon because we all trust in the journey. But aside from that, we're going to be talking about iPhone 12 leaks, and specifically like we mentioned before, there are 4 iPhones this year. Pricing, we have already mentioned before, but if you haven't, then we will be talking about them. So let's get on into it. So there's 2 base model iPhone 12s. So granted, comparison to the iPhone 11, there was only 1. Now we have 2. So we have the iPhone 12, which is, the iPhone 12. It's a 5.4 inch. It will have OLED. It will have an OLED display. So if you don't know what that is, obviously if you use any modern flagship phone, it's a nice display that's on those phones that, where blacks look black, colors look rich, they look vibrant. And granted, this is not the same OLED panel that will be used for the Pro models, the big boys, because those are naturally from Samsung. This will be from a company called BOE. BOE is a Chinese, screen manufacturer, which is interesting because Apple has done business with them in the past, and it seems like, given the whole circumstances, they were able to give them a really good deal. And it seems like the displays are up to Apple's quality because, they could have just paid the extra and just, Samsung do it, but they decided to go with BOE. So kind of interesting, So I'm more confident to say these displays will be good, but only time will tell. We need to see them in person. But there's also going to be the iPhone 12 Max, which is a 6.1 inch, which will be the replacement for the iPhone 11. So we are getting two models. We're getting a smaller one now. So we're getting a 5.4 inch for sure. And then we're getting the 6.1 inch. Both will have 4 gigabytes of RAM. Both will have a base of a 128. So we'll get into that a little bit because that is a little bit important. But both will be a base of 128. The iPhone 12 will start at $649, and then, for the 256 gigabyte model for double the storage, just add an extra $100. And then the same thing goes for the 12 Max, that it's going to start at $749 and then go to $849 for double the storage. Both will have the A14 processor, 2 cameras. It will also have 5G as well, so that's cool that all the iPhone, at least the main flagship lineup, will have 5G. Because obviously the big ones, if the smaller ones get it, then that means the big ones will too. Aside from that, pricing is really good, very competitive. The fact that we're getting a flagship iPhone for $649, again, crazy, which Apple is being very aggressive this year with their prices, and it's going to be a smaller form factor, which a lot of people are more comfortable with that smaller form factor in iPhones, which I don't blame them. A lot, like I said, 6.67 inches. These things are phablets nowadays, guys. Like, they're getting, I like bigger phones, but not everyone does. So, but granted, there are drawbacks, which we'll explain a little bit later as we go on. But now we're talking about the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. Both of these will have OLEDs from Samsung, so that's nice. They're Super Retina XDR, which their XDR displays are basically like the Pro Display XDR on the Pro Display XDR. So it's going to be similar display, 10-bit color gamut, but they're also going to have ProMotion. If you guys don't know what ProMotion is the variable refresh rate technology that Apple has implemented into the iPad Pros. It was first implemented in the 2017 or late 2017 iPad Pro, the 10.5 inch, my original iPad Pro. And then obviously it got put in the 2018 and now the 2021, which it's funny because I've owned all three. Actually, that is crazy. I've owned all three of them. But they're going to have ProMotion, which a lot of people speculated Apple was going to do eventually. We originally thought they were going to be in the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. It wasn't, but now it seems like Apple is more comfortable and willing to push it out now. There are some benefits and drawbacks, and we will talk about that. 6 gigabytes of RAM, obviously, and then base model 128 gigabytes of storage as well. 3 camera lenses as usual, but there will also be a LiDAR sensor. Yes, there's going to be the LiDAR sensor. You know that little sensor we made fun of on the iPad Pro? Yeah, it's going to be on there too. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because it'll make a little bit more sense as we continue to go on. But they will also have 5G, so Gucci. And they're also going to have bigger batteries too, so that's another plus. Pricing, iPhone 12 Pro starts at $999, goes max storage option at 512 gigs is $1299. Big boy, the 12 Pro Max starts at $1099 to $1,099, and then goes up to $1,399, so $1,399. So that's all the specs jargon, because I know we got to get that out of the way because, we got to get that out of the way. But there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Specifically, I want to start with ProMotion because this is interesting. I have gone on record multiple times, and you guys know I've gone on record and said this. I do not like high refresh rates on smartphones. I think it is a very stupid idea. I like the implementation, but the drawbacks don't make a lot of sense. And here's why. So my phone, obviously, as I bring it up right here, my OnePlus 7 Pro, the main selling point feature was that it had 90 hertz display. It was cool. It was awesome. And I actually liked it. It didn't hit the battery so hard. My battery life, I still get 6+ hours of screen on time every day. That's also because I wake up later in the day now, so I don't last the whole, I do end up going the whole day without charging my phone. But you get what I mean, is I charge it in the morning, go to the end of the day, no issue. And I stay up till 2 in the morning anyway. So yeah, that's pretty good battery life to me. But when we made the jump to 120 hertz, this is where things became much more tricky, because now everybody's like, oh, you either compromise display resolution and get higher refresh rate, or you get both, and then you just completely tank your battery, which is a lot of people don't seem to understand, is that high refresh rates, yes, they will take a lot more power, guys. They will. And that's why people tell you, yes, it's nice to have 120 hertz, but it also is going to kill your battery. And puts a lot more strain on it, and it's just not I don't see it as a pro, especially when you say the jump from 90 to 20. It's not noticeable. It really isn't, unless if you're like, you get what I mean? Like, you have to be like dead on looking at it 24/7 just to catch it. And it's the same thing people do with like 1080p and 1440p. The average person cannot tell the difference between them. They cannot tell the difference. You can tell the difference between 720 and 1080. Most of the time, I'd say that's pretty obvious, but even the average consumer doesn't really care so much. It's just tech jargon, To us, it matters a lot as a tech nerds. It matters to us because we like the specs, but in the grand scheme of things, you won't notice it. And a lot of people have gone on record and said you don't notice it. And the jump from 90 to 120 hertz in terms of battery life, it's a pretty big drop off. And I just don't see it as worth it. So that's why I've been one of the harshest critics in regards to high refresh rate on smartphones, especially because, yes, you have to either make more, optimized batteries or slap a bigger battery in. Either way, I say more optimized batteries makes more sense because you're able to make your battery last longer. It gets used to the workflow. It gets used to pumping out that refresh rate instead of just slapping a bigger battery in, because then that's going to degrade your battery health overall. And same thing with wireless charging, but we're not going to talk about that today. But let's talk about this. ProMotion. Why am I so fond about ProMotion? Why have I been saying this is such a good idea? That yes, Apple may be late to the party, but they're also going to do it right. And the reason I say this is a variable refresh rate makes more sense for battery longevity because it's going to help your battery life, because you don't need the 120 hertz on all the time. It's nice that your phone will ramp up to it when it needs to, but it's also nice that your phone will ramp back down when you're doing something that doesn't really need it. Say like reading a book or something like that. Like, you don't need 120 hertz to read a book. And that's the nice thing about ProMotion, is that it will scale based on what you're doing. And it also helps with battery life. Now, granted, the one downside I would understand where Apple was coming from in this is they were not confident with how it would affect battery life on the iPhones. Because like I said, it's only been on the iPad Pros. The iPad Pros are much bigger devices. They have much bigger batteries. And it makes sense that they were not gonna, they didn't want to take the chance of reducing battery life. Because keep in mind, 5G already takes a big chunk out of battery life to begin with, guys. It already does. And a lot of people don't seem to realize this. 5G is a technology, really, what it really is. 5G is just marketing jargon. It's just a selling point to make people say, pay more for this. And Qualcomm is doing the exact same thing. They're not selling the 865, the Snapdragon 865 without the 5G modem. And that's what's causing all the Android manufacturers to raise their price, because they have to include 5G. And Apple is doing something crazy because they're including 5G in a $649 flagship phone. Yeah, Apple's definitely being very aggressive this year with pricing. Granted, there will be drawbacks. We're not going to lie, but it's still nice. It's still appreciated. It's very nice that they're doing that. But the fact that 5G already takes a hit in your battery life, and 5G is basically a useless technology that will only be useful in like 3 to 5 years, but by then, modems will be better. 5G modems will be so much better. And the technology will be more refined, and your smartphone that has it right now won't really benefit from using it right now. It won't really benefit at all. So it's interesting that Apple is doing this. And with ProMotion, like I said, it's very nice that they're going this route because, granted, like I said, they're also putting bigger batteries. So these Pro iPhones are going to have 4,000 milliamps and above, which is really good that they're doing that because you're going to need a bigger battery. You also keep in mind, the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max already had 1 day battery life, no issue. The Pro Max could go 2 days pretty much on a heavy workload. Yeah, these phones have already had really good battery life, and they still didn't even have bigger batteries than most of the competition. It's also because of the efficiency of the A13 and just Apple's optimization. So I think with the A14s with better optimization and bigger batteries, these things are gonna have great battery life. Granted, don't be surprised if the battery life isn't as great because they're adding ProMotion, they're adding 5G. So do not be surprised, But let's talk about that pricing though. $649 for a flagship iPhone. That's crazy. Like, we already seen Apple's been very aggressive with their iPhone prices lately, with the iPhone SE starting at $399 with the specs that it has. Granted, not everyone agrees with it, but that's okay. But it's still a great value overall. And the fact that now you're able to get a flagship iPhone for $649 with 128 gigs of storage, that's awesome. Like, that's a big win. Granted, like I said, the panels, we need to see these OLED panels in person before we can make judgment call on them. But if Apple was willing to let BOE, produce the panels, then that means Apple has confidence in the quality of these panels. So, we can go from there. But Apple is definitely playing the smart game now. They know that being aggressive with pricing right now is the best thing to do, especially with the current circumstances going on in the world. You don't want to be charging big flagship money for phones, because right now a lot of people can't really afford it right now. People are very tight with their money. They don't want to spend so much. They're being more price conscious. They're being more, I'd say, more mindful of what they're spending their money on right now. And that's okay, but I think it's great that Apple is meeting the consumers halfway, giving them a good phone. Also for the people that wanted a smaller iPhone, even though, yes, some people still don't consider 5.4 inches very manageable, I think it's still good. I think that's a good middle ground, to be honest, because there's people that don't like super small phones and there's people that love super small phones. I think compromising in the middle is a great idea. Keeping it in between 5 inches, that's great. And also the fact that they're going to have smaller notches as well, so the phone isn't going to look as ugly as like the regular iPhone notches. I can take that as a win. That's a win for me. Let's be real, guys. That's a win. Like, that's a win for you. That's a win for me. Next talking point is the LiDAR sensor. Yes, they will have LiDAR sensors. Like I said, this will only be on the Pros, not the 12s. So let's be mindful of that. But yes, a lot of us were expecting that the LiDAR sensor was going to be on the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max because it was on the iPad Pro. A lot of the changes that was made to the iPad Pro this year, and I'm also looking over there because my iPad's like right there and right there next to me. But the iPad Pro implemented a base 128 gigabyte storage option and it included the LiDAR sensor. Both two incredibly good options. And granted, like I said, the LiDAR sensor is still limited in its use case because, like I said, not that many people really care about AR, or there's not so many functions for AR right now. But the 128 base is very, very appreciated, especially because now, since Apple is pushing people to do more professional work on their iPhone, which, if you want to argue with me, you can look at Apple's claims that they made during the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max reveal, where they specifically said this is a new tool for professionals to use, for professional filmmaking, professional videography, professional cinematography. This is the go-to. They've said it, and that was their claims. And Juan has tested it in his recent videos. Hey, Juan, shout out to you. But you get what I'm saying, guys? It will be interesting that now, since they got rid of the 64 base gigabyte model, people are probably going to be more inclined to take 4K videos more often now because now they have more storage. And like I said, 128 base, that's really good. I think that's acceptable for a smartphone, to be honest. I really think it is. Now, granted, I know people are pushing it, especially because, with the Ultra, the Samsung S20 Ultra, having 8K, which I still think is useless. But with 4K, 128 gigabytes of storage, I think that's good. Granted, when you look at the 12s, the $100 more for double the storage, that's pretty reasonable, to be honest. I see that as very reasonable. But that's on you guys. That's your decision, not my decision. I can't tell you what to spend your money on. But it's really interesting that now they're going to have a base model of 128 and starting at $649. That's great. Especially like the Pro, if you look at the price comparison between the 11 and the 12 Max, the 12 Max replaces the 11. The 12 is a new category in its own because it wasn't there before. And yes, if we're looking at the comparison, the 11 started at, $699. The 12 Max starts at $749. So you're basically paying for double the storage, a better display. You're paying for 5G for $50 more. That's a steal. That is what you call a steal. And it will be a great comparison seeing how those iPhones compare up to, say, like OnePlus's offerings or, say, any other manufacturer, releasing smartphones in the $600 to $700 to $800 range. So it'll be really interesting to see how they compete when they come out. Now, granted, they will also be delayed. We've been hearing rumblings that Jon Prosser, as he mentioned in his video, that the new iPhones could be delayed. The event won't be until like October, and they may not come until November, but Apple could be pushing it and could get it, say, late October to get the phones shipped out. So that'll be really nice if Apple's able to do that, to be honest. And aside from that, we're going to talk about the LiDAR sensor because, like I said, AR is more useful than VR, in my personal opinion. My personal opinion is AR seems more useful than VR because AR can be used for some very helpful situations, to be honest. Say like when you're designing a house or, renovating your house, you can see what furniture goes where. You can see how it's going to fit in compared to everything. You can do an AR sketch of your house and lay it all out in front of you. Or say if you're walking somewhere, you can have AR enabled so that it would show you, hey, you're going to go through this area, you're going to go through this specific corner. Even though your phone, naturally when you're using a map, you can see like the path that says, hey, turn on this street. But with AR, in theory, you would be able to see where you're actually going. And I think that's actually really cool, to be honest. And so many more. And granted, like I'm just going to allude to this. I'll say what it is. Jon did another leak video talking about a product that we knew was in the works, and now it's interesting that now we have more details and firm details about it, because these are leaks that Jon has been given directly from an inside source who has been working on the project. Apple glasses. So the LiDAR sensor is going to be used, whatever LiDAR sensor, whether it be on the Pro or the new iPhones, the iPad Pro obviously, but the LiDAR sensor data that's collected from those products is going to help funnel into the Apple glasses, because they will be running with LiDAR sensors. So I think that's really cool. It'll be interesting to see, which we will be talking about them, obviously, because, we run a tech show, so we have to talk about new tech, but it will be interesting to see how this plays out, But aside from that, that's really all we have. Like I said, this, in my opinion, seems like the last leak video I'm going to do about the iPhone 12s for a while, because like I said, this is pretty definitive. This is pretty much the end of the line. Like, we have an idea how these things are going to look. And like I said, I don't want to repeat verbatim everything Jon said, because Jon has already explained his leaks and explained the sources, and there's more details than that. So if you want more of a spec rundown, you can go look at Jon's video. I'll post in the link in the description down below. But I just wanted to give my thoughts, because the fact that ProMotion is coming to the iPhones this year is really impressive to me. And I do feel like Apple's going to do an amazing job with it. I think they are going to hit it out of the park, to be honest. I know some people call me an Apple shill for saying that, but let's be real here. This implementation is better. It makes more logical sense. It does not make sense to have the 120 hertz enabled all the time when it doesn't really need to be used. You get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense. You don't need to use it all the time. I'd rather have it be enabled when I'm going to use it, and then when I'm not using it, let it scale downward. It'll still feel buttery smooth, and it will crank up whenever it needs to. And as we can't say the ProMotion technology hasn't been tested, because we've been using it on the iPad Pros for this time, and people have loved it. And the iPad Pros get great battery life. They get like 10 plus hours. So you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm expecting big things. I think, now granted, we know Apple's going to be like, this is revolutionary technology. This is changing smartphones. This is pushing the boundary. Like, we know they're going to do it. It's going to happen. But at least in this case, they know that they have something solid. Now, granted, because like I said, they didn't want to do it for a long time because they were worried about battery life. They really, really were. Now, granted, I know everyone's hoping for Apple Pencil support on the iPhones, which I don't know why you guys want that, but if you guys want that, I don't know, you guys are crazy if you want that. Like, it doesn't make much sense to put an Apple Pencil on an iPhone, Like, you know how weird that looks if you're going to charge it, especially when you want to charge it on the iPhone, like, yeah, I know I'm rambling about that, but like I said, thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really means a lot to me. Obviously, thank you guys for listening for Wednesday's episode. It really means a lot to me. You guys keep coming back and listening. I hope you guys are enjoying the content so far. And if you do, you can just leave a like or a dislike. Doesn't matter. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like the new iPhone 12 leaks? What do you guys think about the new iPhone 12? Would you be buying an iPhone 12? How do you feel about the LiDAR sensor and its implementation in relation to Apple glasses? Or how do you feel about Apple finally doing 120 hertz or at least variable refresh rates on the iPhones now? Is there any concerns you have with these iPhones? Maybe the BOE displays are a concern from you. Let me know in the comments down below. And obviously, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to the show from, you can guys let me know. You can hit up my social medias at SoMungie on Instagram, Snapchat. Well, if you want to follow me on Snapchat, then it's pretty much the same thing as Instagram, but you get what I mean. Like, you guys can follow me on any of my social medias, and you'll get updates very directly from me. You'll also get access to the polls. Obviously, you're more than welcome to also become Patreon backers and get early access to the episodes, because, becoming a Patreon backer does help me. Because it's not so expensive. It's only $2 a month, early access to new episodes. In time, I will be adding more benefits to the Patreon backers for, more benefits as I continue to create them and come up with more incentives to become Patreon backers. But like I said, thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Please continue to be safe out there. Please take care of your neighbors, take care of your friends, your family. Continue to respect and love everybody. Please do the necessary requirements that your local authorities are asking you to do. Please don't try to be weird and cause an issue in public, because guys, it's not a good look. Like people don't need to deal with that right now. Please respect others. If someone's asking you to do something in a politeful and respectful manner, please just do it. Be kind, respectful, love everybody. And I thank you guys so much, and I love you guys to death. Please be safe. Don't do anything dumb, because I know people are about to start doing some pretty dumb stuff now. But please be safe. Don't do anything dumb, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.